All right. Hey, guys. How are you? God bless you. Just want to remind you guys, if you are on the official Street Preachers channel, we're going to end the stream there. But like I said, the first few videos, since we've got Christian Journal back, we're going to simultaneously stream for the first few minutes of the video so that you guys understand that, we are now streaming over at Christian Journal Media. It's been about 4.5 years since we've used this channel. We got it back last week. Our first video, I believe, was on Wednesday night. Our first video after 4.5, almost 5 years, something like that, on the Christian Journal Media channel. So, we're going to focus on that. Like I said, David Grisham is taking over the official Street Preachers channel, but I did want to just hop on here for the first few videos since we got Christian Journal back to remind you that our live streams will be here. In addition to our live stream teaching, there's a lot of things that I have planned on this channel, basically kind of going back to what we did when we first had control of this years ago. And we are going to be using it to shine the light on darkness, if you will, to push back against darkness, to cancel child grooming events, child trap events. And, one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to show some videos from atheists, liberal pundits, things like that. And we're going to show their lunacy, incorrect, doctrine and theology from their perspective. And make no mistake about it, atheists do have their doctrines. And we're going to show and correct all their errors. One guy in particular, which you guys might remember at Satan Con last year, we shut him up and he walked away from us. But he's completely wrong. He's smug, arrogant, and he speaks confidently about things. And yet most of what he says, he's completely wrong on. And it just doesn't seem to care. But we're going to show that. And we're going to start going through some of these things and showing you, because what I've been seeing lately is, atheist liberal arguments, and everything is based upon, a conclusion, something they already believe. And what they're doing is they're trying to work backwards from something they already have. It's called the fallacy of begging the question, where, the argument's premise assumes that the truth is a conclusion. So they assume that what they're saying is true. The conclusion of their argument is true without actually proving or supporting what they're claiming. So I want to do a lot of that over the next few weeks. The next few weeks are going to be more of a ramp up period, going to be kind of a setting Christian Journal up, because again, YouTube, we haven't used it in so many years. It's kind of like almost like a new channel, in that the algorithm is trying to relearn, if you will, who to push the videos out to, they're trying to find who is going to like this content, things like that. So again, if you are on the official Street Preachers channel, please make sure you migrate over to the Christian Journal Media channel. Just type in Christian Journal Media. You'll see the logo there. It's just the CJ logo, and that. So, make sure you're over there, because like I said, we're only going to do this for a few videos, and then we won't be doing any more, because again, I want Dave to completely focus on the channel, take over. I want him to do his teaching. And like I said previously, just to reiterate, one of the reasons why for me is, I just can't anymore. Since Ruben died, I've seen a lot of just horrible things from people who are calling themselves street preachers. The things that they say and do. And I realize a lot of people really don't know their Bibles at all. Like, I don't want to be a guy that just, is known for rebuking and nothing else, because, and that seems to be what's going on here, that, some of these guys are really good at rebuking, but when it comes to actual doctrine and Bible, they don't really know much at all. And for me, it's one of those things where it drives me insane to see such horrible doctrine, horrible behavior, ungodly, unbiblical things. I mean, the biggest one of course, is for me, lying is just, I don't get it. But anyway, so that's why I said I just can't, for my own well-being, if you will, because again, I'm one of those guys where when I see something that is, bad, I have to say something, because, I have a genuine concern for the body of Christ, and I have a genuine concern. Oh my gosh, I don't want anybody to go to hell. I don't want anybody to be deceived. when you hear something so horrible, when you know that somebody's leading someone astray, it's one of those things where I really genuinely feel deep down in my gut, in my soul, a need to protect the body of Christ from bad actors, from bad teachers, things like that. Like, it's one of those where, but I've had to realize lately that no matter what I say or do, there's just some people that they're not going to care. And again, I've had to come to the conclusion that, again, it's not my job to save people. It's my job to put information out there and, let people take that information and form their conclusions. Most Christians today, they believe what their pastors say. They believe what their, favorite teachers say because, well, they want to. We don't want to believe as Christians that maybe we were taught wrong all these years. A lot of us have things that, we've been brought up in churches, a lot of people, and, a lot of pastors have gotten a lot of things wrong, over the years. I mean, I've had to correct things that I've gotten wrong over the years. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, but it's a problem within Christianity as a whole in America that, we generally speaking, we don't want to correct bad theology or bad doctrine. So as somebody who is a street preacher, I'm not, if it makes sense, I'm not just a street preacher. Street preaching for me is a part of what we do, but it is not everything that we do. If that makes sense. So we want to teach the Bible. We want to live the Bible, and all that. So again, I'm going to remind you to cut the stream now on Official Street Preachers. So if you're on there, you might want to head over to Christian Journal Media right now, because that's going to be the end of the stream for Official Street Preachers for the night. So again, Christian Journal Media, type it in. You'll see the black circle with the white CJ. That's the channel. So make sure you head over there. Make sure you're subscribed and got your notifications turned on. Okay, with that said, let's go over a couple things that have happened this week that maybe you don't understand. So I want to share with you this, those who are watching. You'll notice that there's no SatanCon this year. It's canceled. Excuse me. Now they're claiming that they're canceled because they want to focus on the election. But, again, this is a group that had the largest satanic gathering in history. And what was it like? 200 people, 300 people that were there, maybe 500. I don't know. It wasn't that big, but it was the protests that pretty much got it canceled. They had all this media coverage and they had people descend on them like nobody's business. So I've got somebody, that basically told me they publicly they're canceling it because they want to focus on election, but really they want to erase that whole thing last year. This way they give it a year and then people kind of forget about it. They didn't like the protests. They didn't like us standing right in front with the bullhorns and all that. So it did get canceled. And there is no SatanCon this year. So I want to first and foremost, use that to show and tell you guys that, when you stand up against evil, it does have an effect. Okay. We do have an effect on these people because, when these events get canceled, they'll try and say things like, well, it got canceled because of violent rhetoric. And let me tell you something, I've been doing this for years. Okay. I've gotten, we've seen so many events canceled and everything else. And, we've been directly involved in quite a few of them. A lot of them are canceled because of our activism in whatnot, because God has given us the know-how to do it. And God said, okay, Rich, go ahead and do this. This is how you do it. And we did it. So praise God. But I've never seen anybody call for violence. And it's just a lie because, like all things like the children of the devil do, they lie because they want to elicit sympathy, saying, well, we can't have our drag show because we were threatened. Lancaster, Pennsylvania is a good one. They said they canceled it because of a bomb threat, and we got notified 24 hours prior to it, and we put it out there and started having people call and email, and it got canceled. And they said there's a suspicious package. But what most people don't know is that suspicious package was a package that the library was expecting the whole time. It was coloring books. Okay, from Scholastic. I'm McGraw-Hill, one of those two. They knew it was there. They knew what it was, but they saw an opportunity to blame conservatives and Christians for shutting down their event and saying, see, we had these threats come in. But in reality, the truth is it was a package that was delivered there. They knew what it was, and they expected the package there. but they just took advantage of it, and hoping that nobody notices. And for the most part, nobody did. It was a very localized thing that, went out there and said, oh, it's just a package that, they knew was coming, whatever. But the narrative went out there because that's what liberals do. That's what the children of the devil do, right? They have no problem lying. And again, even when they're caught in lies, it doesn't matter. They continue to promote and propagate that lie because that's what serves their needs. It's like the next Benedict story. This is a young girl, a non-binary teenage girl in Oklahoma here who took her own life, and they were saying that, oh my gosh, she was beaten to death in the bathroom in the high school, and they just left her for dead. Well, that turned out not to even be remotely true. As it turned out, this poor young lady was, abused by her father sexually. Her father was, just put back in jail for not registering for failure to register as a sex offender, and that's why she took her life, and that's what her suicide note was about. It's about the molestation she endured as a child. But the liberals, the left, the LGBTQR, MAP, HIV, whatever you want to call them, took advantage of this young girl who was suffering. She was on medication for depression and anxiety, and come on, look what happened to her. But they didn't care about that. They didn't care about this young lady that was in pain. They took advantage of her pain. They took advantage of a young lady who was abused by her father to push an agenda. At the end of the day, these kids that are taking their own lives, these children that are, doing these things, it's because of the people pushing that agenda on them. Because if you go back historically, you don't see kids, offing themselves like you do today. You don't see these, all these medications, all these depressed kids years ago. You don't see it. But again, when the devil wants to push an agenda, when the devil's minions, when the devil's children want to push their agenda, they don't care who they hurt. They see an opportunity, they seize on it, they pounce on it like a dog in heat. They don't care. And this young lady who took her own life, they saw an opportunity. They tried to create a transgender George Floyd with her, but the narrative quickly fell apart. But you don't see any fact check on that. You don't see them. You don't see the people that lied and pushed the lie that she was abused, whatever. No. Instead, because again, they can say whatever they want and people believe them. It doesn't matter. Okay. Have you noticed that the enemies of God, false teachers, devils, their audience doesn't require them to prove that the claims that they make. All they have to do is make a claim, and the people that listen to these devils believe it, and they will often repeat it because they believe it's true. They want to believe it's true, so they don't actually research the claims and everything else. And then even when their narrative falls apart, they will somehow try to find a way to bring it back to the original lie and say, well, okay, fine, but, and yet we let them do that. And we as a ministry, we stand opposed to that, and we want to, bust through those lies, and we want to expose the lie, and we want to make sure you understand what's going on in reality here, because, at the end of the day, it's the kids that will be the ones that are going to be hurt more than anybody else. The kids are the ones suffering for all of this. The kids are the ones who are being, bombarded with all these different things here, and unless you're on board with this agenda of theirs, you're outcasted. You're not loved. You're this, or, the world is going to hate you. History's going to, leave you behind. And, you want to be the right side of history and all these things here. And we as Christians, we just want to, we kind of just go, well, Jesus loves you. We don't really bother to educate ourselves to push back against this. And then we don't really push back against it either because either we don't know how, or, a lot of us are just too cowardice to deal with it because of the violence from these people. And make no mistake about it, they are violent. They claim it's Christians that are violent. I get accused of violence all the time. And yet, even the FBI conceded when they came to my house after some homo called them, even the FBI conceded that there is not one shred of evidence. There's not one video. There is nothing. Never an arrest, never a conviction, nothing in my entire life that I have ever done anything violent ever. And yet, if you listen to some of these LGBT whack jobs, they'll make you think I'm the most violent person on the planet. And yet, with all them saying violent, 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 how come they can never prove it? And why do people believe their lies? But yet, when you and I say things, we have to back up and prove every little thing we say. Because that's how the devil works. You see, false converts do that too. They believe what their pastor says to them. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases. these mega churches, they didn't get that way overnight. Mega churches are not even a biblical thing. Matter of fact, Laodicea had a mega church, and we know how Jesus felt about them. So, we have to push back against this because of what's going on. And you can look at what happened in Bakersfield, California. I have a short up about it. A woman named what was her name? Riti Patel stood up there at city council meeting and said to the council people that Jesus would have killed them and that they hope somebody comes with a guillotine to murder them. And it says, we're going to, they want to saw metal detectors. And like, well, we're going to come to your house and murder you. These people have murder in their hearts. And she was arrested for it. You can't literally say we're going to come to your house and do bad things to you and think that that's free speech. When you actually threaten somebody, when you actually say things like that, that is a threat. Liberal, non-binary, she identifies as non-binary, threatened to unalive the city council people in Bakersfield, California. And yet, these are the people that think that they're the moral majority. They think that they have the moral high ground. And the only reason they think that, by the way, is because we let them think that. We let them get away with it. Why? I don't know. But I'm going to play the clip for you real quick of what she actually said so you can hear it. And of course, she's in jail now. She's being held in $1 million bond. This isn't somebody who's, marginalized. This isn't somebody who's having her rights taken away. She literally threatened to murder these people. And she's non-binary. This is who they are. They are violent. And this is what they want to do for you and me. They don't want us to be alive. And they use justification to justify their murders, their murderous heart. So go ahead and take a listen.
Regardless of whether you elect people into office,
somebody said there's no sound.
And for that reason, you are.
Somebody said there's no sound, so I don't know what to do about that. So never mind. But you have to go back, and I'm sorry about that, guys. You're gonna have to go back in the channel and look. I don't know why the sound isn't playing. I don't know how to get it to play. When I play a clip like that, so I have to figure that out because I don't usually do that. But if you go on you go on the channel, go in the shorts, you'll see it, or not short. It's in the video section. It's the last video I posted of that, and you'll hear her say, cussing and everything else. But that's what I'm saying. These people, she actually claimed that they're violent and everything else, but yet again, they say that, but she's the one who literally threatened to take their life. And this is, we see this over and over and over again, that it's always the other side that's violent. It's always them. It's never our side. And yet we still allow them to continue to push this false narrative. And what people fail to realize is it's stuff like that's going to get actual Christians, hurt, because we're allowing them to demonize people with lies. And these people are so reprobate in their minds that, it doesn't matter that what they say isn't true. They don't care. They say things enough times hoping to either, that they wind up believing it themselves, or they hope other people wind up believing it as well. But there's not a single Christian that I know, okay, that is violent. And yet most of the Christians I know are accused of it all the time. So you have that happening in Bakersfield. You have that next bit of thing. And then, of course, the last bit of news we're going to talk about is the Iran attacking Israel yesterday. Now, of course, in Chicago, they erupted with praise, talking about, yay, Israel got attacked. And look, Israel absolutely is a wicked place. I mean, the largest LGBT population in the world is there. The largest gay pride parade is in Tel Aviv every year. But the fact, and now they're like, oh, see, Iran didn't target Israeli civilians. They targeted military installations. No, they targeted the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel actually defended the mosque. If I was Israel, I would have let them take that thing out and been like, look, they did it. But their attack failed. And yet, you got these people in the United States that are, again, how quickly we forgot about 9/11. That people now are sympathizing with murderers and terrorists in this country. I mean, it is absolutely shocking where we are as a society, and we really think that we're going to make it. I mean, if you need proof that we are in the last days, if we're in end times, just turn on your local news, or, open up a news browser or something. And I mean, it's there. You can't deny it, or you can't miss it. But this is the world we live in now. And it's the violent liars. These are devils. They're the children of the devil. The Bible makes it clear that the devil does have children that are kind of running the roost, if you will. It's the mental patients are running the asylum. And nothing is going to change until Christians decide that they've had enough of this and start taking advantage of the Holy Spirit that's supposed to be residing in them, and allowing the Holy Spirit to empower them, to embolden them, to use the voice that God is giving them. America will never be great again until America is born again. I know that sounds like a cheap cliche, but it's the truth. Okay? So, again, and I'm not defending, Israeli people. Israeli people are wicked. But the nation of Israel, is God has a covenant with that nation. So, again, the people that live there, I mean, they hate Christians too. Let's be honest. I mean, if you're Christian, Christianity isn't even recognized as a denomination of Israel, and the Jews there will spit on you and everything else. So forget the people. The nation is what we should be concerned with, not the people. The people are wicked. I mean, they like you said, the biggest pride parade in the world happens there. But it is news, and something as Christians we should just kind of be aware of and keep watch. So there's our kind of breakdown for headlines, what's going on in the world in the past couple of days for you guys there. And now I want to, dive into this teaching about carry your own cross, because, I teach on this a lot. I talk about this a lot with other Christians, because I believe, the Bible talks about, it's a command from Jesus Christ to each one of us to carry our own cross. But again, like a lot of things in the Bible, I don't think people really understand what that means. So when we look at the Bible, when reading our Bibles, a lot of people tend to view the Bible through the lens of American culture, as if somehow God, when he had those writers write the Bible that were inspired, said, well, you know what, let's not concern ourselves with this time period. Let's write this from a standpoint that the people in the future are going to understand. So we tend to interpret scripture through the lens of our culture, but that's not the way it is. So when you think about the term carry your cross or bear your cross or any one of these things people say, I want you to ask yourself this question before you really dive in. When you think about, the Jewish population living in Israel under Roman rule, right? Under Roman occupation. We forget that Jesus Christ wasn't the only person crucified. throughout the Roman Empire. Lots of people were crucified. Matter of fact, they crucified so many people, they would just like find a tree and nail people to the tree. So in Israel under Roman occupation, do you think that when they thought of crucifixion, that even Christians, after Jesus was crucified and he rose again, and you know they were meeting and having church services and whatnot, when they were hiding in caves and going house to house, do you think a Jew in the first century there looked at the cross and thought, wow, that's love? Do you think anyone within the first century, you know, during Roman rule, thought that the cross was love, that love won on the cross? Do you really see a Jewish population looking at the cross and thinking love won? Okay, let's ask ourselves, and let's be honest here. No Jew ever would think that he would look at the cross and say love won at the cross. The cross terrified people back in that time period. We get the word excruciating from the word crucifixion because it was designed to be a slow, torturous death, okay? So when they viewed the cross, that was a symbol of terror and death. It was not a symbol of love and all these things here. So we start out the premise when we, as American Christians, like everything else, is, well, we just want to make it all lovey-dovey. The cross is love, 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 love. I mean, we sound like we're at a pride parade when we say things like that, right? Because everything out of their mouth is love is love, love is love. So you really have to ask yourself today, is that how they viewed a cross back then? Certainly not. So then why do we view it that way? You look at the Bible verse, Luke chapter 14, verse 27. And I hope everybody has a Bible as we do this. If you're watching this video after the fact, you know, I want you to open the Bible, and I want you to look at this verse, and I want you to read it for yourself and understand that this is coming from Jesus Christ himself. This is a command. This is what he told you. He says, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. There's some interesting takeaways in the verse here, because I hear people say all the time about carrying your cross, you know, bear your cross. But it says carry your own cross. You not carry the cross of somebody else, not carry the cross of this guy or that guy. You need to carry your own cross and come after Jesus. Because if you don't, you're not his disciple. Now, again, there's a lot of verses in the Bible that people tend not to like, or they want to twist and distort because they're not doing the things that Jesus says. And carrying your cross seems to be one of them because, again, we've softened the message of the cross. Christians that love to quote this, oh, it's carrying my cross. But again, it seems to me that they fail to grasp the meaning of what it means to carry your own cross. Matthew chapter 16, verse 24 through 26 is kind of a parallel verse here. It says, then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? This is amazing to me because Christians trade their soul for things all the time, and they redefine the terms. Instead of just admitting that they're cowards when it comes to standing up for the truth, they say, well, we got to love them. They've allowed the culture to dictate the terms by which they operate. And it's where we find ourselves today. You know, and everybody says they're going to heaven. Everybody says they're a Christian. But what is it going to profit you if you gain the world? You gain the love and adoration of the world. But you're going to forfeit your soul in that process. Okay? And again, this isn't a private interpretation. This isn't something that, I'm reading this and so I'm getting. This is what Jesus himself said. Every day, and I'm sure a lot of you watch this video hear this as well. Every day I hear somebody say things like, oh, Bearing one cross, it's akin to dealing with life's problems, to dealing with a problem that you may be facing in your life. Carry some burden, if you will. Oh, I have a thankless job. It's just my burden to bear. It's my cross to bear. It's my cross to carry. Oh, I lost my girlfriend. I lost my boyfriend. I guess it's just my cross to bear. Nobody loves me. Nobody likes me. It's just my cross to bear. Oh, I've got a cold. Oh, I got the flu. Oh, I don't feel good. It's my cross to bear. For most Christians, the whole carrying your cross or cross to bear is self-pitying pride. And again, I get it. This is not something that American Christians like to hear because nobody wants to think about them being prideful in any capacity, right? After all, we're followers of Jesus. We're not prideful. How dare you say that, Mr. Penkoski? How dare you say that, Richard? How dare you assume? But that's the truth. That is the truth. Okay, when you take the carry your cross message and turn it into something you have to, like a burden, it's self-pitying pride. Okay, that's all it is. Oh, it's my cross to carry. And what they mean is, it's just, it's a burden I have to bear. Oh God, I have to bear this burden. For a lot of Christians, they think it's humbling to bear some kind of burden. They don't really want to do it, but they feel like God wants them to do it for whatever reason. So, because they're godly and, they're humble and they're going to make sure this, they're going to do it anyway. They don't want to do it, but, they're going to do it. This teaching is completely wrong. It's completely fallacious. And it's not what Jesus meant in any way, shape, or form when he said to pick up your cross and follow me. But it's a very lovely sentiment, isn't it? Oh, Jesus, pick up your cross and follow me. Pick up your cross and follow me. I have a theory here, and I was just talking to a brother last night about this. And I'm going to say this, well, I'll get to that later. Let me go here first. Pastors today, they stand in their pulpits and American churches don't resemble anything historically of what the church did or how they operated. It's a fact, okay? You may not like to hear that. You may not want to hear it, but it's the truth. Today's Christianity, today's churches, Jesus wouldn't recognize the things that we do. I mean, I saw a video of a men's conference where they had some guy put a sword down his throat and climb a big pole. And Mark Driscoll, and again, this isn't about Mark Driscoll, but they booed him off and then they kicked him out of the men's conference for condemning that behavior at a Christian conference. Because it's all about being entertained now. I hear Christians say, why do you go to church? Oh, the worship is amazing. Is it really worshiping God or are you worshiping the music that they're playing? Because it's eliciting some sort of emotional response. When you go to church, the music moves you. Is it the Holy Spirit moving you or is it the music moving you? Can you get that same feeling without that music? So our churches are venues. They've turned into venues for entertainment. Hi, buddy. And that's what it's become. So, of course, the message has to be something to keep the masses there. Because when you use carnal means to bring people in, you have to use carnal means to keep them. And you can see the effects it has in our culture. Because, and I'm going to be doing videos soon during the week. I'm trying to be more teaching on Sundays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, more like other videos. Like I want to do a video called Cancel Christian Culture. Because Christians are just as bad at cancel culture as everybody else. Because if you disagree with a Christian, they'll cancel you too. They will come on your video and let you know, I am leaving. I am unsubbing. I am no longer going to subscribe to you because they want you to go, hold on, Mr. or Mrs. Subscriber. Let me change my way to keep you as a sub. Because most people do. They're chasing after the follows. They're chasing after the likes. They're chasing after the views. They're chasing after all that other stuff. So when people say that they're leaving, instead of just quietly leaving, they let you know because they think that because you want that subscription from them, that you will change the way you do things. Because that's how the church operates. We want to keep everybody in the church regardless, and we will bend over backwards to do whatever's necessary to keep those people in the pews. And that includes things like, having, what's that one thing called? They have a movie theme at life churches. Right, where you go in there. Last year it was in Super Mario Brothers. The whole theme, the entire church was decorated in Super Mario Brothers. And of course, what kid's not going to want to go there? And they're saying, well, we're going to focus on Jesus. No, you're not. You're focusing on Super Mario Brothers. You can say whatever you want. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. You can sit there and say that you're using Super Mario Brothers to push Jesus, but that's so ridiculous. That those kids are not going there for Jesus. They're going there because of Super Mario Brothers. And now when you get them in there, when you use Super Mario Brothers as a means to get those people in your church, when you start talking about Jesus, you're not going to keep them. So now you got to water things down. You got to use more carnal means to keep those people you want into your church by carnal methods. You have to keep the messages light and fluffy. You have to give the people what they want, not what they need. And holiness is a threat to Christianity today. Right? Hi, handsome. Sorry, it's my son. You want to say hi? Mommy said hi? Okay, hi, Mommy. Holiness is a threat to Christianity today. The churches don't want to hear this because, again, when people feel bad, again, churches are just as bad as liberals are. They don't want you to feel bad because when you feel bad, you leave. And when you leave, you take your wallet with you. And while I'm certainly not object to people giving to churches, I mean, churches do need people to give to do, to keep pay the light bills and all these things. Most church budgets today don't go into the necessity of what church is supposed to be. It goes into their programs. It goes into all their extracurricular events. I mean, and that's the truth. But, today's church, and you can argue with me all you want on this, but all you have to do is take a look at American culture today. Look at the issue of abortion, okay? Almost every single Christian out there that, and I'm talking to your regular Christian, not your, will tell you that they believe there should be some kind of abortion. I mean, in Kansas, which is a Bible Belt state, they wanted to make abortion completely illegal, and the voters shot it down and said, well, we believe we should have some kind of abortion. These are coming from Christians. Okay? Did you know that 60% of abortions are done by people who profess to be of the Protestant faith somewhere, whether it's Baptist or, whatever it is, somewhere in the Protestant, Protestant side of things? 60%. These are people murdering their children. And somehow they think that God's okay with that. Well, it's just my burden to bear, huh? Fornication, all these things. It's just my burden to bear. And yet our churches today are full of all this nonsense. I watched a video where I saw a street preacher standing on a street corner saying, God loves you, sinner. Jesus died for you. Did he die for the sinner or did he die for the church? Now, hear me out on this before some of you go crazy. I say Jesus died for the church because it's the church, which is the people, that go to heaven. His death has no effect on the person who dies in sin. So Jesus died so that the sinner can have an opportunity to be saved, but he did not die for them, because if Jesus died for the sinner, then the sinner would be the one who's saved. But the sinner is not saved. Okay, you cannot be a sinner saved. You are one or the other. Jesus died for those who are believing in him, those who believe in Jesus, those who are obeying Jesus, those who are doing the will of God are the ones that Jesus died for. Now, again, every person on earth could be that person. Every person that offer of salvation is available to every human being on this planet. Okay. Every human being can either accepts or rejects Jesus' offer of salvation. But to sit there and say that Jesus died for the reprobate, it's not true. He died so the reprobate could have an opportunity to be saved. He died so the reprobate can say, I believe in Jesus, and that believing person is saved. But he did not die for the sinner, so to speak. He died for his church, while the people in the church were still sinning. He died for his church where those people were still in sin. But if his death saves sinners, then sinners will be the ones going to heaven. So don't get it twisted and mistaken here. His death gives the opportunity for all men to be saved. But not all men, unfortunately, are going to be saved. Okay, this is not Calvinism where they believe that God picks and chooses who gets saved and who doesn't. Salvation is available to everybody, not just one person, not just one who God chooses to be saved. But we say things because we desire to reach people. We want to be friendly with people. We want to be friends with the world. And again, it's because Christians mask their cowardice by saying things like, well, I just wouldn't do it that way. Well, you may not like the way some people do things, but at least they're doing something. While you sit in your air-conditioned, churches every Sunday morning singing Kumbaya while the world burns around you. But hey, man, you went to church on Sunday. To hell with everybody else, right? It's all about you. Because you feel good about yourself. Because you went to church on Sunday. You have no fruit. And again, there's another video we're going to be doing here because we forget that the Bible talks about good fruit, bad fruit, and no fruit. And we all know that people with bad fruit go to hell. But Jesus makes it clear that when you produce no fruit, you are also going to go to hell. Okay? Nobody talks about that because most Christians don't have any fruit. Most people think going to church on Sunday is the fruit. That's not fruit. Fruit is the substance of the work. When you plant a tree into the ground and you water it and you water it and you water it, and the tree grows because you've planted it, you've watered it, you've taken care of it. Fruit grows because of the labor of making sure that tree is taken care of. The work you put into that seed produces the tree, which produces the fruit. So the fruit is a substance of your work, and most people don't have it because most people don't even have any works. Works are evidence of salvation. Okay? If you have no work, I will argue that if somebody has no works, that person probably isn't saved. But you have to have some kind of fruit. And again, this is one of these things where people, because they don't have any fruit, they want to say, well, I go out and I do this. Well, okay, but what's the result of that? They confuse works and fruit because, again, when you realize that when you have no fruit, you're going to go to hell as well. So the churches don't want to tell you things and make you think because, again, Jesus, when he says, carry my cross, he's saying you should be willing to deal with pain, torture, agony, humiliation, insults, and death. How many Christians are really willing to go through all? Let's be honest. I know everybody says they're willing to die for Jesus, but it's easy to say what you'll do for Jesus when you don't actually have to do it. But fortunately in America, we can put that to the test. Because when you see people out in public dancing around half naked, when you see them going into your schools trying to promote filth and perversion to your children, what are you doing about it? Are you just moaning and complaining on social media with no real anything because you're virtue signaling your disgust with things, but there's no real tangible anything in your life other than saying that? Do you get involved in your local school board meetings? Do you go to your school board meetings? Do you go to your city council meetings? Do you contact your state legislators? Do you contact your city council? I mean, does your lawmakers even know who you are? Does your city council even know who you are? Do your police even know who you are? If the answer to this question is no, then what the heck are you doing with your Christianity? Every Christian thinks they're a threat to the devil, but most Christians have done nothing to make the devil fear them in any way, shape, or form. You think the devil's afraid of you going to church and lifting your hands and singing songs? You think the devil's scared of that? No, because you're not doing anything when you do that. But the people that are willing to incur the wrath of society, if you will, the humiliation, to being spit on, and all these other things by the world, those are the people that Jesus is talking to. But if you're unwilling to even step foot beyond the church parking lot to do anything, you're not willing to die for Jesus. Because if you find yourself saying, oh man, you see, Brother Rich, if you were more loving, then these people wouldn't threaten you. Oh, is that how this works now? So in other words, is we have to change things up now because we're supposed to want the world to love us and like us? Completely opposite of what Jesus said. Jesus says the world is going to hate us. Not a matter of they will, or, hey guys, you got to be nice, or else, no, the world's supposed to hate us. But you see, Christians don't want to be hated. They view it as, well, if these people don't like me, I can't reach them. But really what they're doing is they're masking their cowardice and using a false Christianity as a crutch for their apathy and doing nothing. Pastors sit in those pulpits, and that's why they said the message of carry your cross has turned into some kind of burden, and pastors teach from their pulpits every week across this country, and people buy it. Right? It goes along with the whole God's ways are mysterious, guys. Which is a twisting of Ecclesiastes 11, chapter verse 5. God's ways aren't really that mysterious. We know what God wants from us. We just choose not to do it and say, well, I don't really know what God wants. No, he wants you to open your mouth. He wants you to stand up against evil. He wants you to proclaim Jesus out in public. But when you look at these verses about carrying your cross, when you actually look at the scene here, Jesus carrying his cross all the way up to Golgotha. Nobody at the time ever thought, and it was certainly not implied, that carrying the cross was in any way, shape, or form symbolic. I mean, Jesus literally did carry his cross. But again, to reiterate, to a Jew living in the first century, second century there, the cross meant one thing and one thing only. And that thing is death. That's all it was. See, crucifixion was meant to be as painful and humiliating as possible. And Isaiah actually mentioned this in Isaiah chapter 52, verse 14. He said, just as many were astonished at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. You see, Jesus on that cross was disfigured. He was unrecognizable as a man. Matthew chapter 27, verse 20 through 30 says, they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. And after twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and a reed in his right hand. And they knelt down before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. They spat on him and took the reed and began to beat him on the head. That's what we should be willing to do. And I know, we'll do that for Jesus. No, you won't. Be honest with yourself. You won't. You're only saying that because nobody's actually doing that to you. But in America today, we think America's a Christian nation. We are a Christian nation. We are not a Christian nation. We may have started off that way. We may have started off with, God is the centerpiece here because our founding fathers, and again, most people are uneducated here, but our founding fathers.
Did you fix your sound?
You can hear me.
Kaylee said you really had no sound.
Only in that one clip.
Okay.
That they said that our government was created for a religious and moral people. But today's people aren't religious and they're not moral anymore. I mean, most people, if you see two people dating, it's assumed they're fornicating. And fornication is a sin that just became normalized because society says, well, it's not that big a deal. But to God, it is. Every single person who's living in fornication is going to burn in hell. But you're not going to hear that in churches because how many people are going to church that are shacking up and not married, but are having sex and making babies, but they're not married. But the minute you tell those people you're going to go to hell for that sin, they'll walk out and they will cancel you. While they go on social media talking about cancel culture from the left, they are just as bad. They're hypocrites, which is what Matthew 7 talks about. But that's another video for another day. But like everything else, though, American Christianity has softened the message of the cross. And today, most would say the cross is a symbol of the atonement, forgiveness, grace, and love. But nobody, for the first 1,000 years of Christianity, thought that. The cross was torture and death. The condemned would have to carry their execution device, or at the very least, the crossbeam, all the way to the place where they're going to be put to death. So when you see, the carry your cross message in the Bible, it doesn't mean to bear some burden, doesn't mean to, bear some illness. When you look at the cross the way Jesus did, the way the Jews did, kind of changes things, doesn't it? The route they would have chosen for these people to carry their cross to, where they were going to be executed, it's not a direct route. It would have been the route where the condemned person would be seen by the most people. The Romans wanted everybody, every single person, to see this person be, as they were carrying their cross, because they wanted people to be scared of breaking law, because if you broke law, this would happen to you. So we are supposed to be like these soldiers and get all of you to look at Jesus on his way to Calvary and on the cross. And it's because of the effeminizing of our language and the effeminizing of our culture that most Christians don't understand or even want to understand what it really means to carry your cross. We don't like to think about torture and death. It's not a pleasant thing to think about, and it's not. But in today's culture, carrying a cross, right, the means of execution, needs to be softened, because most Christians are neutered and good for nothing. The Bible talks about a soft man in 1 Corinthians there. We don't talk about, even Peter talks about, if your mind was fixated on the crucifixion, you wouldn't sin. But we don't want to talk about, the torture and death of the cross, because it's not a very nice thing to think about. But when you look at the culture today, and you look at how effeminate the churches have become, and how they've softened the rhetoric, and they've softened the message, and they've changed and distorted things, it really explains why you don't see Christians in churches today out of the abortion clinics en masse. It explains why you hear Christians in churches say things like, well, you're doing it wrong, why they don't go to their lawmakers, why they're not standing up to the sexualizing, grooming, and trafficking of our children, why our children are being medicated like no time in history before, while children go to school today. And in America, in schools, public schools today, there is on average one teacher, on average in America today, being arrested for some kind of sexual something with a child, whether it's text messaging, inappropriate pictures, flat out assaulting a child, or having a relationship with a child. On average, and they're all liberals, by the way, one teacher a day. We got drag queen events targeted specifically to children. Grown homosexual men dressing up as hypersexualized females to dance and twerk, appealing to the purine interest of a child. And it's only gotten worse. Those of you who followed this channel years ago and realized when we first started going against this, they were just simply reading stories about being gay and stuff to kids in libraries. We warned you back then. Go back and look at some of the older videos on this channel. We warned you, and here we are. And I'm telling you, I heard a homosexual man the other day, it was on a video, he said, if a 3-year-old is old enough to decide their gender, then they are old enough to decide and consent to sexual activity. That's what he said. That's horrible to think about. But if you think about what he's saying, is these people in their mind is, well, if they can change their gender at 3, why can't they do this? Because that's where they're going with this. And if you think they're not, then you really are deluded. Because that is absolutely 150% where they're going with this. Every single thing these people do is targeting our kids. Okay? Everything they do is targeting kids. But hey man, we just gotta love them. But when you realize how effeminate the church has become, how softened the message that even the premise of carry your cross, be willing to die, be willing to be spit on and beaten and jailed and falsely accused. Nobody in American Christianity, in the church community, if you will, the church world, is willing to do that. They say they are, but we live in a time now. Listen, and again, there's lots of Christians that are being persecuted in America, and their stories are theirs to tell. But let me tell you about mine. Okay, we live in a time, Christian Journal, while you're watching this, some of you that came over from Fish Street Preachers know this, but those of you from the older audience don't know this. But I am the first person in America to be threatened with jail time for posting Bible verses on Facebook. All you have to do is look up my name, Rich Penkoski, in Google. And the first article is a Fox News article, and you can see it. Go on CBN, and you can see it there. My lawyer, I'm the first in America, in Oklahoma, no less, for posting two scriptures, which two lesbians said it makes us feel unsafe, even though I've never even met them. So we are in a time now where you can demonstrate whether you are willing to lose your life for Jesus. Do you know how many times I've been slandered by homosexuals, by homosexual supporters? And yet here we still are. We're supposed to have that happen to us. It's not a shock. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise when the cops take you to jail because you're preaching the truth. It's not a surprise when cops show up at your house because people in FBI show up at your house because people said, he's escalating in violence, even though literally it never happened. They're just crybaby snowflakes. It's supposed to be that way. But people aren't willing to die for Jesus. They're not willing to do much for Jesus unless it benefits them in some way. Nobody wants to lose anything for Jesus. Nobody wants to give up anything for Jesus. Because most Christians today, not all, most, they're only saved because of what they get out of it. Ask a Christian today, why are they saved? And most people will tell you it's because of what God can do for them. Not what they can do for God, but what God can do for them. Okay? You see what I'm saying? But it's the truth. And I know, when you talk about these videos, this is why you don't see many street preachers who have platforms or who teach, things like this. It's why you don't see hundreds of thousands of views on these videos. It's why you don't see people going, oh man, whatever. You see them go, clearly I'm talking about me. I mean, I don't need to, I'm going to go. But yet, every Christian I know says that they're doing things for they're walking the walk. They're not just talking the talk, right? And this is what they say. But every Christian says that, but yet our world is still so dark and evil. Nobody wants to hear a message that you should be willing to be tortured for Christ. But that's exactly what Jesus said. Most people don't even know what carry your cross means anymore. How can you follow Jesus? How can you carry your own cross if you don't even know what it means? How can you do that? Hebrews chapter 10 verse 29 says, how much severer punishment do you think he will deserve who has trampled underfoot the Son of God and has regarded as unclean the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified and has insulted the Spirit of grace? When you denigrate and minimize the suffering that Jesus endured, you are trampling the blood of Christ. Do you not get that? Jesus was despised by his own people. His own people wanted him dead. He carried his method of execution, the device by which he was going to be put to death. He carried it to the place where he was going to be put to death. He was spit on. People threw rocks at him. He was beaten. He was mangled. He carried the shame of a condemned man, even though he was innocent. He carried the ire of his own people. You see, following Jesus is pretty easy when things are going away, isn't it? When everything seems right, when we're doing well. Following Jesus is really easy. It's easy to say you follow Jesus, but it's not so easy to actually do what he says to do. It should be, but for most people it's not. And I want you to think about this. Every Christian movie you've seen which depicts the crucifixion, Jesus carrying his cross, every movie you watch has a scene that Jesus buckled and fell down under the weight of his cross. But when you look in Scripture, you don't see it saying that Jesus fell down under the weight of his cross. Nowhere does it say why it was necessary for somebody else to even carry the cross. We know somebody else helped him carry the cross, but it doesn't say why. But yet every movie you see, they've input in there that he fell and buckled under the weight. And I've heard sermons where people say even Jesus buckled under the weight of his cross as an excuse for you to sin. So they didn't in the Bible tell you why someone needed to help him carry his cross, but they did describe the hours of suffering that Jesus had to endure. They talked about how his sweat had been drops of blood in the garden. And soon men were beating him up. And then officially he had been whipped until his back was a pulpy, bloody mess. He didn't sleep. His head had been hit again and again with fists and sticks and rods. And Jesus knew extreme weakness. I mean, think about how much blood he lost. So we can appreciate the fact that as a true man, he was no longer strong to carry his heavy cross. But it doesn't say that he fell. I have a different view. And again, this is my view. This is not in the Bible per se, but neither is buckling. But I want you to look at it a different way. I don't think Jesus buckled under the weight of his cross. I know it sounds humbling to think he did. I know a lot of people preach this and they teach this. You know, pastors have preached this message of brokenness from the pulpit and, you know, oh, we're just broken people. Oh, we're in this perpetual state of brokenness. But Jesus certainly wasn't broken in that way. His body may have been broken in that it was beaten, but Jesus himself wasn't a broken man. Okay? When you think that the weight of the cross is too much for Jesus, and you teach that he fell down under the weight, you're adding things to the Bible in that regard. So what I'm going to say here, again, I'm not adding to it, but this is a perspective that I had, you know, when I read that and I'm looking at it, I said, well, it doesn't say why somebody had to help him. But what if? Just what if? What if? Because again, we know that the whole point of carrying your cross through the longest route and where most people could see you was to intimidate people, was to humiliate you and whatnot. What if, after being beaten the way Jesus was beaten, he was still carrying that cross? I don't think that message would have went over well, especially in a time when the Jews were, you know, constantly kind of revolting against Rome. Rome was always worried about them rising up, you know, whatever. To see a man they just pummeled and beaten, still carrying a cross, that would have shown to the people the weakness of Rome, that they beat this guy and he still can carry this cross. So I have a take and says, what if they had somebody else carry the cross to make it look like Jesus was too weak? Because if he carried his cross all the way after being beaten like that, it would have demonstrated strength, not weakness. And Rome couldn't have that because Rome was all about showing strength. So what if the propaganda of carrying your cross there wasn't working? And they said, well, this isn't working. These people are, hey, this guy was beaten, he's still carrying his cross. Maybe Rome is as tough as we thought they were. They couldn't have that message. So what if they had somebody carrying the cross to make it look like Jesus was too weak to carry his own cross at that point? Just saying. It's another perspective to look at. Because when you look at the inverse, people and pastors use it as an excuse to teach people that, it's okay to buckle. It's okay. Even Jesus fell under the weight of his own cross. Because they soften everything about the message. They soften everything about Jesus. They effeminize Jesus. Okay? Because again, it's easier to pick up your cross and follow Jesus when you don't talk about it meaning to die. Follow Jesus to death. Pick up your cross and follow that road of humiliation and pain to the place you're going to die. It's easy to follow Jesus when you don't look at it from that regard. But when you look at the Greek word for follow, I want you to think about this. The word is akaluthito, and it means to follow or to go somewhere with a person, to accompany that person on a trip. And the tense use of the word here in the Bible, when talking about pick up your cross and follow Jesus, is the present active imperative. Now, for those of you that don't read Greek, I'm going to explain to you here. Imperative verbs are verbs that create an imperative sentence. Sentences that give orders or commands. So when reading an imperative sentence, it will always sound like the speaker is bossing somebody around. Imperative verbs do not leave any room for question or discussion, even if the sentence has a polite tone. It is to be done without question. The present tense of the meaning, carry your cross and follow me, it's an ongoing action, and the active voice occurs when the action of the verb is being performed by the subject. So Jesus, when he says, carry your cross, your own cross and follow me, is giving a command that we must continuously follow him, and it's not open for debate. No discussion, just do it. We are required to carry our cross and follow him. And the word pick up your cross is also an imperative. So Jesus is commanding us to pick up your cross and follow him without question. This is not open for debate or discussion. How many of you are actually, be honest with yourselves, how many of you are actually doing that? How many of you are actually willing, and don't just tell me you're willing to die for Jesus. When you live in a culture now where you can do things for Jesus and risk being arrested, fired, canceled, whatever, but you don't do things for fear of that, and then you say, well, that's not loving. You're using the cultural definition of love to mask your cowardice and apathy. I can't make you do anything. I can't, whatever. It's not even my job to do that. But I think everyone watching this should do some introspection. Because here's the thing, James chapter 1, verse 22 says, prove yourselves doers of the word, and not merely hearers who delude themselves. Christians have deluded themselves into thinking they're following Jesus, but when they're asked to prove it, they can't. Instead, they'll blame you and say you're not very loving. They'll twist and distort scripture to ease their own conscience, but the Bible is very clear. Prove you're doers, and not just somebody who's convinced yourself you're doing because you hear. The Bible, you delude yourself. That's what it says. Prove it. Prove it. Most people can't. The early church would not recognize the American church. The early church would throw most pastors of the churches today out on their butts. The early church would stand up and rebuke these whitewashed tombs that we call churches today. And it's time to stop with this cheap bumper sticker theology. Time to stop following uneducated men because they sound like they know what they're talking about, simply because they're giving you what you want, not what you need. Because these people are leading people straight to hell. It's not humbling to say that carrying your cross means you're bearing some kind of burden like an illness. That is nothing more than self-pitying pride. And you need to wake up and start understanding what Jesus is saying there. Because carrying your cross are the trials and the tribulations that come to us because of believing and obeying Jesus, making no compromise with the world whatsoever, or excuses to be loved and adored by the world, to use fear, to use like, oh, it's not loving, whatever, as a cover for your apathy and your moral cowardice. And don't say it's not, because it is. Because if you stand idly by while people are grooming your children for sex, don't tell me you're a follower of Jesus, you pick up your cross. Bottles, Oklahoma is a good example of that. We stood there, three of us, me, Jim Gillis, and David Grisham, stood at their Pride event, uncovered a trafficking ring where they were trafficking children to gay parents, and a baby lost his life. And a lesbian is in jail for the rest of her life for torturing and murdering a 2-month-old baby or 3-month-old baby because the LGBT was dead set on putting kids in the hands of gay people. They sat there, and the groomers, nothing inappropriate happened. Meanwhile, we had video that was shared and seen over 1 million times showing drag queens grabbing their penises and rotating and gyrating their hips 6 inches in front of children's faces. And not a single solitary church was out there. Matter of fact, we got rebuked by a church for doing what we did. And I says, well, the drag stuff is exposed now, isn't it? They're not going to do a drag show again, are they? No, but that's because I prayed for God to stop it. I'm like, oh, so we showed up, it got stopped. Wouldn't that mean that God used us to answer your prayer? No, that's not how it works. Oh, of course not. Second year of that Pride event, street preachers showed up, about 15 of us. None of the local churches showed up. Why? Because it wasn't very loving to tell a pervert that they're perverted. It's not very loving to tell a groomer clown that they're grooming and that they're on their way to hell. Well, if you don't think that's very loving, then I guess you don't think Jesus is very loving either, because Jesus spoke an awful lot about hell. Matter of fact, when Jesus said he's going to throw you into hell, the way Jesus described it, if you look at Gehenna, he basically said, you're a piece of trash. Just saying. So if you really want to know what it means to carry your cross, ask yourself these questions, folks. Are you willing to follow Jesus even if it means losing some of your closest friends? Are you willing to follow Jesus even if it means alienation from your own family? Are you willing to follow Jesus even if it means losing your reputation? Are you willing to follow Jesus even if it means losing your job? Are you willing to follow Jesus even if it means losing your life? And I know knee-jerk reaction for most of us is going to be absolutely, but is it true? You have America today. You have your opportunity to go out there and do something about it under the threat of arrest, under the threat of losing your job, under the threat of losing your family and friends. Are you doing it, or you just say you will? Because you can. If you say you will, but you don't, you're lying and you've deluded yourself. So I hope this video has encouraged some of you. I hope you got something out of this. I pray that you do. I pray that, as we go forward with the Christian Journal, that God continues to use it, and that over the next few weeks, as the algorithm is relearning how to do things, like I said, it's kind of set up like a new channel, but you can really help us out by sharing the video, by sharing it on your social media platforms. Encourage others. Let other people know, hey, Rich is over in here now. Giving the video a thumbs up, giving it a like, because these all go into the algorithm. Staying on there for more than 2 minutes, the more, so the algorithm works by how much, how long the video is, how much time people are watching it, whether thumbs up, comment, shares, all these things. If you get a lot of them, then the algorithm learns, okay, this is what people want. And they start pushing this kind of content out to others. So if you really want to help us, regrow and re-promote now that we're back on Christian Journal, the best, you can really help us out by sharing this video. Again, if you got some out of it, if you don't feel like you got anything out of it, by all means, don't share it. But if you did, and you feel like others can get something out of this, a share would be much appreciated. Also, if you can come back and like the video, after the video is done, if the process, come on back, leave a comment, even just whatever you feel led to do. Give it a thumbs up and make sure other people understand what we're trying to do here. Because we're just getting started with this Christian Journal thing again. We're kind of, and it's funny because I get a phone call. I talked to a brother last night who I haven't talked to in a long time. And it seems like things are kind of going back to the way we were prior to a lot of things that have happened over the past year, which I'm actually really excited about because we did so much good work. We were so focused on what God did. We weren't distracted by the peripherals. We weren't distracted by other people that were, whatever. And we were focused on this, and that's kind of where we're heading again. And I'm really excited to go there. I'm excited to see what God is going to do. Amanda's going to be writing again. My wife's going to be writing again. We just got to get things back under my server. It's still not done yet on that part with the website. We have to make some tweaks, but again, unfortunately, it cost me a few $100 to do that, so there's some time involved in trying to get things going again, to where they need to be. And we'll, again, so just, it's kind of like a growing pains again, if you will. So we'll get there. Like I said, we're going there. We're going to incorporate newsletter because I do want to shoot stuff out email, but I'm going to incorporate a text message part of it too, so that we can text you when we put something out there, whether it's on the YouTube channel or on the website itself or a combination of the two, to get it out to you guys, news, information, things like that are relevant to all of us as Christians. The things you may not hear in mainstream media, the things you may not hear from even the Christian Post, other Christians that are doing things that you may never know because the media doesn't pay attention to them, but there are a lot of people out there doing good work and things are happening that you should be aware of. And that's what we're going to be doing again, like we did before. So we're very appreciative and thankful that God has given us this platform back. Again, the next few weeks are going to be kind of a learning phase for the algorithm on YouTube again, the website, getting things, set up and running. So just bear with us for the next couple weeks on that, and we'll get there. But, again, if you could share the video, if you're watching this, subscribe to the channel. Again, but understand this, I'm not one of these guys that minds losing subscribers. If it happens, it happens. Because for me, I'd rather have people that are willing to stand up. I'm more willing to have, 100 Christians that are willing to say yes and pick up their cross and follow Jesus and not care what other people think and not care what the world thinks, than 10,000 who would just want to, sit on Facebook and complain about what's going on. I want people that actually want to get involved because that's what it's going to take. So if you know people like that, if you know people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired, then hey, shoot them our video. Tell them to subscribe to the channel. Don't be part of the Christian cancel culture. Yeah, I hear my feelings. Hey, whatever. You know what? And if you don't want to, whatever, don't think by saying, we're not an airport. You do not have to announce your departure. If you want to unsub, that's your prerogative. By all means, be blessed. It is what it is, but I'm not going to change the way I do things for anybody. God has us doing what we do, and that's all we're going to do. I don't care what anybody feels about it. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. I only care what God says. I only care what God thinks. That's where I'm at. So again, if you're watching this video, you can give us a subscription on YouTube. We'd appreciate it. If you feel like you got some value of this, if you feel like that's you that wants to be involved, and if you could really help us out by sharing. We also have a Rumble channel, which other brothers are encouraging me to kind of slide over there, but we will in the future once we get Christian Journal reestablished and get some of those people back that subbed a long time ago that are just starting to realize, hey, wait a second, Rich is back. We'll start making it over there. But we do have a Rumble channel, which it was Official Street Preachers, but we did change the name to Christian Journal. So it's rumble.com Christian Journal. You could look up Official Street Preachers if you want, but we did change the name to oh man, I got to change that text in the bottom there too, don't I? Christian Journal. Okay. We're still part of Official Street Preachers. We're just not running it. That's Dave is doing that. And again, because we each have our own strengths, we each have our own weaknesses, and I believe Dave is much more suited for that than me. So, if you want to help support our ministry, one of the things we do need immediately right now is to help pay for some of the development of retweaking the website, as well as the travel costs to go to New Mexico. In about 2 weeks. We're going to preach out in New Mexico. We're going to preach a powwow out there. Something I've never done before. I'm actually really excited to do it. But, we do have to get lodging and we do have to get gas to go out there. So if you want to help support us in that, we could sure use some help with the travel expense to go out there. Gas, lodging, all those things there. David, myself, I believe Jim Gillis wants to come with us, but again, it's, if you want to help support our labor that we do, a lot of the reasons we get to go where we go is because you guys help make it happen. Gas is really, it's getting more expensive. It's not like it used to be. It's $1 more here in Oklahoma than it was just 2 months ago. So any help that you guys can give me, much appreciated. Again, it gets us out there. It gets us preaching with our bullhorns or half-mile hailers. We get to go out there. We get to preach to people, tell them about Jesus, stand against evil, shut down groomer events. Like I said, we just caught a pedophile over at the R Bar in Indiana. I did a video on it Sunday. Literally caught a convicted sex offender working at a kiddie drag brunch at that bar. Okay? This is what we do to protect and save children. If you want to be part of that, you can donate to our ministry on our website, officialstreetpreachers.com/give. I haven't switched that over to Christian Journal yet because I have to get those on my server and I have to pay to tweak the donation links and all that stuff there. But anyway, but it's on Official Street Preachers right now. The donation link, it's officialstreetpreachers.com/give. You can also go to our Venmo, which is at Christian Journal. You can also use Zelle, which is rpenkoski1@gmail.com. Those are the ways you can donate to us. Every little bit helps. I don't care if it's $5 or $10. Every bit, even $5, it gets us a little bit of gas. We can go 50 miles on $5, whatever it is, something 100, whatever. I don't know, 10, 20. I don't know, whatever it is. But it helps. All of it adds up, and it helps because we are going out to Mexico, and then we have other events coming. That we need to preach. Somebody needs to do it. So any little bit of help you guys can do to get us get help in our ministry. If you believe in what we're doing, you want to be part of that. We certainly do appreciate all of that. Again, it's officialstreetpreachers.com/give, Venmo at Christian Journal, or Zelle rpenkoski1@gmail.com. We do appreciate that. We love you guys. We're thankful for you. Yeah, there was more. There was a 20-something earlier, but again, you have to remember that the algorithm is learning again how to push the stuff out. The people haven't seen a video from us in over 4.5 years, so some people realize it's going to take a couple of weeks to kind of readjust. So we have to go through that phase there. But again, if you could share the video, let other people know this is where we're doing our videos now, that would be fantastic. And all that. So give it a few weeks as we carry on. Do those things there. Again, we know that, again, we were shadow banned years ago. Whether that carries over or not, I don't know. But again, the algorithm, you're talking about now versus 4.5 years ago. Things are a lot different in YouTube than they were years ago. So, but we're going to be doing content every day soon. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure that you do have your notifications turned on. Again, share the video, thumbs up, comment. If you want to help us and support our ministry and our travel expenses by going standing against evil, like I said, we're going to New Mexico in 2 weeks. We could sure use help. Appreciate you all. I love you all. I'll be back here on Tuesday night. I'm going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays because Dave is doing his videos on Wednesdays, and we don't want to interfere with each other. So Dave will be doing Wednesday on Official Street Preachers. I will be here on Christian Journal on Tuesdays and Thursdays on the YouTube channel, as well as Rumble and the 7 other platforms that we're on as well. So keep that in mind. And with that said, I love you guys. God bless you guys. I'll see you guys on Tuesday night.
I would like to address some of you upcoming street preachers. You have to understand, you're not going to be a pulpit preacher. You're not going to preach in very nice places. As a matter of fact, where God will send you, it's going to be a little bit dirty. Unfortunately, most ministers see their flock dressed nice, looking nice, smelling nice on Sunday, but we see them from Monday through Saturday at any given place. And so that flock is a mess. And you have to understand, when you preach open air, it's not going to be glamorous. Unfortunately, God's going to send you into the filth, the wickedness. You're going to understand why, even at one point, God resented even making mankind. And so you need to count the cost. There's nothing glamorous. There's nothing wonderful and beautiful. It's not, you can forget about being a missionary to Hawaii. If you're going to be an open-air preacher, your hands are going to get dirty because the field that you're going to plow is filthy. You're going to look at sin in a whole different way. As a matter of fact, if you're a good street preacher, you're going to hate sin. You're going to despise sin. You're not just going to dislike it. You're going to understand why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and why God destroyed the world with water and flood. And so if you're a young open-air preacher, this is what you're going to have to look up to. This is going to be the field in which you're going to be plowing in. And you need to rejoice in that. And understand you're going to be hated, despised, and jailed to work in a place like this. Because one day, I'm going to die. And I'm going to be with the Lord. And all this will be yours.